I'm Jane Copier, and you're listening to Happy in the Middle, a podcast for Christian women who want to make the second half of life the best half. This podcast is all about helping women to reignite their spark and step into their divine power in order to create deep and connected relationships and also find that fulfillment and satisfaction they crave. So, if you're ready to grow, join me and learn how you too can overcome guilt, resentment, disappointment, and enjoy the fruits of creating a life well lived. Let's go. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode number 122, Healthy Validation in Marriage, the Christlike skill that builds trust after conflict. I'm so glad that you are here with me. Happy Holy Week, my friends. He is risen, and I am so grateful to celebrate our Savior's resurrection and atonement for us this week. I hope it's a special week for you too. Today's episode is one I've been thinking on for a while now, and one that is especially important as we work toward becoming more Christ-like in our own lives. Today, we're going to talk about validation. It's something that most couples really struggle with, and I hope that we can break it down in a way that will help you more easily understand what it is and why it's one of the most important skills that you can build. Now, I know many of you will say, but Jane, you always tell us to validate ourselves, that we shouldn't rely on our partner for our emotional health. And you are right. I do say that, and I believe that 100%. It is one of the primary issues, of course, that we address in coaching to help you become emotionally secure and self-reliant. However, two things can be true. Standing firm and managing yourself, validating yourself, is at the core of differentiation. And also, validation is something that can help you learn to love your partner well. It is a skill that matters. We're not trying to manipulate. We're not trying to manage someone else's emotions. What we're doing is we are stepping in and saying, you matter to me. What you feel matters to me. It's part of what it means to love another person unconditionally. Healthy validation is one of the most Christ-like, most intimacy building skills that a couple can practice. It is the art of helping your spouse to feel seen, to feel understood and emotionally safe, even when you don't agree, even when you don't see things the same way. Marriage experts across the board teach that validation is not optional for deep connection. It is one of the primary pathways that we will build in order to gain deeper trust, to repair during and after conflict, and also how to create lasting closeness. It's such an important key to creating a stable marriage, and I want that for you. So let's talk about why it's so hard for most of us to handle things when our partner is upset, instead of using loving validation, okay? So we're going to dive into why it's hard, then we're going to talk about what to do about it, and then bring it home with a skill that you can use to start using validation more effectively in your own marriage. First of all, I think many of us confuse validation with agreement. This is one of the biggest blocks. Many spouses think that if I validate your feelings, I'm admitting that I'm wrong. So instead of listening, they start building their defense, right? As they're listening to you, they are thinking of all the things, all the ways that you're wrong. It's so important to understand that validation is not agreement. You do not have to agree with your partner's thoughts. You do not have to see things the way that they see them. Validation is simply acknowledgement. It shows that your spouse's emotional experience makes sense from their point of view, not yours. Right? A lot of times our family never modeled this, right? If someone grew up hearing, stop crying, or you're too sensitive, or just get over it, right? This kind of emotional attunement with their spouse may feel very foreign. People often love from the level that they were loved as little children, as we've talked about in our attachment podcast episodes. So validation can feel really awkward at first because it's a whole new relational language that they're completely unfamiliar with, right? These folks can easily become emotionally flooded themselves because they learn from an early age that emotions were to be avoided at all costs. So they move into fight or flight, and they have a very difficult time accessing that prefrontal cortex that helps us think rationally. So it makes perfect sense that it would be a struggle to validate because if your nervous system is that triggered, you're in survival mode, right? These people are very extremely uncomfortable with their spouse's emotions and they want to move away from them as quickly as possible. So dismissing them feels like a good solution. Another obstacle is shame. For those who struggle with a healthy self-concept, on the inside, they don't feel worthy of love. Even if they don't really think that about that out loud, like in their brain, if you ask them if they felt worthy of love, they'd say, sure. But deep down, subconsciously, they don't believe that. And their biggest fear is that one day their partner is going to wake up and see how flawed they are and take off. So every request or every moment of conflict feels like a personal attack and they become very defensive. Terry Real talks beautifully about how shame blocks relational connection. He says, the moment a spouse hears that hurt me, they immediately catastrophize. Internally, what they hear is, my partner thinks I'm a terrible husband or wife, right? My partner thinks I'm a terrible person. My partner thinks I'm wrong. My partner thinks I'm not deserving. My partner thinks I'm an idiot. Right. And then the shame pushes them to explain, to justify, to deny, to reverse the blame. Defensiveness is often just pain in armor. And this sounds like, I get you're upset, but, and then they defend their actions by making excuses or justifying. Or they might say something like, maybe I wouldn't have said that if you hadn't, blah, 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 whatever. And they turn the attention back on you. Or they can kitchen sink you. Yeah, I did that, but you did this, and this. And then they bring up your whole history of everything you've ever done wrong in your life, right? We call that kitchen sinking someone. And so instead of staying on the original topic, they deflect. They try to change the subject. They might try to push it back on you in order to avoid addressing their own part in the problem. Because looking at their own flaws is so terribly painful. Right? Some people are just wired for problem solving. These are our analytic friends who are much more comfortable with facts than feelings. Okay. So we all know these people. They're great. They're very effective. They're very good at fixing and managing and all that kind of stuff. And they're much more comfortable with fixing instead of feeling. So when their spouse shares hurt, they rush into solutions. They rush into logic or reassurance. They might give you action steps. Here's what you need to do, right? But what their spouse is really wanting is connection, not suggestions. They don't want fixing. They just want connection. They want to be understood a little bit. They want someone to understand or to sympathize. Like, yeah, that's a hard feeling to feel. When we jump in to offer a quick solution, we minimize the other person's emotional response and we rush to end our own discomfort. This causes the partner with the hurt to walk away feeling very unseen. And this is why the phrase that we can all learn is, do you want comfort or solutions? Right? How can I help here? Do you want me to just hold some space for you and hold you in your pain? Or do you want me to help you come up with an idea to make it better? But when we refuse to validate someone's emotions, that behavior erodes trust very, very quickly. So let's talk about what is healthy validation and how do we get better at it? Because even if it feels like a foreign language, you can learn this. And anyone can learn this if you want to. I think Adele Lamack defines this really well. She says, at the core of validation is understanding that feelings aren't rational or irrational. They're not right or wrong. They're signals. They're messages saying, hey, something here needs attention. So the first thing to understand, and I think this is often the most understood thing, is that validation is not agreement with what the other person thinks, right? You're not saying, you're right, I was wrong, or your interpretation of what happened is the only truth. Rather, it's saying things like, I can understand why that hurt, right? It makes sense to me that that would hurt. It makes sense that you felt scared. Or, I see how important this is to you. Thank you for telling me how you feel. I know it's not fun to feel that way, and I don't want that for you. If you love someone truly, you don't want them to suffer, right? So you could say, you know what, I might not fully understand why you feel that way, but I want to. Help me understand because I care about you. Healthy validation means that your feelings make sense to me, given your experience. And again, it doesn't mean that you agree with their thoughts. It doesn't mean that you're enabling them. It means that you're showing up with empathy and that you care about the emotional state of your partner. You put yourself in your partner's shoes in order to show that their feelings matter to you. That's it, right? It's responding to the emotion underneath the complaint, not just the facts of the argument. Terry Real explains this as choosing relational stance over righteous stance, meaning that we're prioritizing connection with our partner over winning or being right. When we validate our partner's emotions, it does several powerful things. The first thing it does is that it lowers our defensiveness, right? When people feel understood, their nervous system can settle down. They no longer need to fight to prove their pain because you acknowledge it, right? It's one of the fastest ways to de-escalate conflict. When we're calm, we're listening without planning how to defend ourselves, and then communicating that the other's view is understandable and that they're not crazy, even when we disagree. What we do is we help our partner come toward us rather than pushing them away from us, right? It builds emotional safety. A marriage thrives when both people know how I feel matters. It's okay for me to feel what I feel. My partner cares about my life experience. That's comforting, right? That safety becomes the foundation for honesty and vulnerability, which then leads to greater intimacy and teamwork. Without validation, many spouses stop bringing their real feelings because it feels unsafe. This is when we turn into roommates, right? We hide what we're feeling because we know that our partner will not give us validation for it. They don't care. It feels like they don't care. So when we validate, it helps our spouse to feel less alone. When your partner dismisses your feelings, it can feel so incredibly isolating. Often, the conflict isn't even about the issue itself. It's a byproduct of the ache of feeling dismissed, unseen, minimized, alone. So what healthy validation does is it says, I'm here for you. I'm with you in this. You matter to me. This kind of messaging changes everything. Healthy validation mirrors the heart of Christ because Jesus consistently made people feel seen and known. He dignified them. He gave them their dignity. He gave them emotional safety. Before he ever corrected them, he connected with them. He noticed the person behind the behavior. Think of the many, many examples in the New Testament when Christ responds first with compassion and understanding, right? He asks questions. He listens. He names the suffering. He draws near. He gave us so many beautiful examples of loving validation. When we look at validation through a Christ-like lens, we can see that it is the practice of bearing witness to our spouse's heart without judgment. This is deeply Christ-like, and we all need more of this. I want to give you a simple 3-step formula. So I'm just going to preface it by giving you an overarching example. Let's say your husband is upset with you because you had planned to have an intimate date night on Saturday, but then your brother calls in a bit of a crisis and needs your help with something, and so you change the plans. And later when you get home, you can see he's kind of irritated, he's in a bad mood, and you may ask him, hey, are you mad at me? And he says, I'm glad you could go help your brother, but it seems like you never put me first, right? What we would normally want to do is to defend, right? We would want to say, oh my gosh, wouldn't I have to help him? He needs help. Or, isn't that the kind of person that you want me to be? We would want to defend the decision. But the first step is always going to be reflect the feeling. Oh, I'm sorry, honey, you sound disappointed, right? Reflect the feeling. Is this what you're feeling? Are you feeling disappointed? And then the second step is to make it make sense. And this is the part where we're going to step into his shoes. How would I feel if I was looking forward to this great night with my husband and he had to leave and left me alone, right? When I do that, I can say something like, that makes sense because you were really hoping we'd have time together. And honestly, I was hoping for that too. right? We're going to step into his shoes and say, that makes sense. I get why you're disappointed. I would be disappointed. And then the third step is to offer connection by saying something like, I can understand why that felt painful. I'm sorry you're hurting. I love you. I love you. We're not excusing ourselves. We're not justifying. We're just saying, I get it. That is painful and I'm sorry. I don't want that for you. And I love you. 3 steps: reflect the feeling. Second step is make it make sense. And third step is offer connection. This is a very simple but super powerful and easy way to practice validating. So I hope you'll incorporate that 3-step practice into your life. I'm hoping that your takeaway today is that validation is one of the purest ways that we can love our spouse. It tells them your feelings matter to me. Above my being right, above what I think is correct, your feelings matter to me. And in marriage, that sense of being emotionally known often matters far more than being agreed with. So thank you so much for joining me today, my friends. I hope you all have a blessed Easter. I also hope that today's message will help you find a greater capacity to love as our Savior does and bring more joy to your own marriage. Have a beautiful week, and I will be back next time with more. Take care, my friends. Hey, if you are ready to get unstuck and make your midlife amazing, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. And I want to invite you to join my Empty Nest Academy, where you will learn how to transform your mind, your relationships, and your life. Come free yourself of regret and disappointment and be so much happier. Listen, sis, we've got one shot at this big, beautiful life. Let's make it amazing. Go to JaneCopier.com, that's JaneCopier.com, and sign up today. And if you're not sure what's right for you, book a free consultation with me and we'll talk it over together. And we'll make sure to get you on the path that serves you the best. See you inside.